Am I the a-hole for requiring my son and his wife sign a contract before I give the stepchildren college money? I, 56 male, have 3 children. Sam, 32 male, Eve, 30 female, and Amy, 28 female. Sam and Eve are married with children, and my wife and I started college funds for them that we put money in at least twice a year. Sam married a woman, Jane, 36 female, who already had 2 children from a previous relationship, and we have accepted them as part of the family once they proved that they were serious. My wife and I invite them over, give them presents, attend after-school activities, occasionally babysit, and don't mind that they call us grandpa and grandma. During our first in-person family get-together since COVID, my wife and our children and their children came over along with my sister-in-law and her family. It was especially nice because this was the first time that we were meeting sister-in-law's first grandchild, a sweet baby girl who's 8 months old. The topic of saving up for college came up, and my wife casually mentioned about how we started up college funds for all 3 grandchildren. Sam's wife overheard and walked in laughing to say, "You mean 5. Not wanting to cause any future problems through miscommunication, I corrected and explained things to Jane. She didn't seem upset at the time, but after everyone had left, Sam called and said how upset he and Jane were that we didn't start up funds for Sam's stepchildren. I told him that it was our money, and we could do whatever we wanted with it, and to think of it as a way to focus any money that they would have put towards his biological child to just give to the stepchildren. I thought that my reasoning was logical, and thought that my son agreed when he stopped talking about it. Again, we were called about the lack of funding for the stepchildren, and Jane wanted to know why we weren't treating them equally. I calmly explained that in almost every other way, we do treat the kids like our other grandchildren, but their ties to us are only there through marriage. And if Sam and Jane were to divorce, then they may not be our grandchildren anymore. Jane was really hurt by this, and asked me if that meant that her kids wouldn't inherit anything once my wife and I were gone. I felt very offended because that was a personal question, but answered yes. If Jane and Sam were still married by the time we died, her kids would get something. But if she wanted it to be an equal share and us to start a college fund for the first 2 kids, then she and Sam would need to sign an agreement stating that they would never divorce. Jane got offended, and I asked her why she would be if she truly loves my son and never intends to divorce him. My other children agree that signing an agreement wouldn't be a big deal, but Sam is upset too. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I know that this might come up. I am aware that blood ties aren't always what makes people family, and as far as I know, Sam hasn't legally adopted Jane's first 2 children. Also, when the college funds were mentioned, we were out of earshot from all the children, so the only way Jane's kids would find out is if an adult tells them. Edited to add too. 1, because I keep seeing this. No, this agreement wouldn't be to keep them from getting a divorce. That's ridiculous. It would be in regards to both my son and Jane paying back any of the college fund money that the stepkids use. 2, yes, my wife and I are more well-off than Jane's parents. So if they are starting a college fund, I don't expect it to be as much as we could contribute. 3, no, I don't know about the stepkids' biological paternal side, as they live elsewhere, and my wife and I have no reason to be in communication with them. I can only ever think of one time that I've actually seen them in person. Edited to add 3, another one because I'm still getting the same thing, so I'll explain my reasoning a bit more. No matter what happens with my children's marriages, their children will always be my grandchildren from both a legal and biological standpoint. The same can't be said for Jane's kids, because what happens if she and my son divorce and each of them remarry? Am I supposed to still give her first 2 children an equal amount as everyone else? Also, what if Sam marries another woman with kids, and I'm expected to be just as financially responsible for them as the others? Where does it end? Also, that means that there will be less money all around, and I don't want to do that. Now for the top comments. Not a day-haul, assuming that the contract doesn't prevent them from divorcing. Please be clear in your language when talking about contracts. However, I would change the phrasing of the contract to indicate enforceable conditions. Answering as someone who has read a lot of family law cases with a lot of drama worse than this. 1. If she really doesn't have any plans to divorce your son anyway, why can't she sign a contract? Because she wants the privileges with no strings attached. 2. Primarily, it is the parents' responsibility to provide support for their stepchildren, not your responsibility as a grandparent. It is easy for them to use guilt and make you give money when it doesn't involve any sacrifice on their part. Why can't your son and his wife provide for the education for the stepchildren? Why can't your son give up his inheritance if the college fund is so important? 3. It is your son's decision to accept them as stepchildren, and you are merely respecting and agreeing with this decision. Your relation to them is a mere side effect, not your direct, independent, personal decision. 4. Legally, his stepchildren can still indirectly inherit through him anyway. 5. Legally, the stepchildren can claim support from their biological dad, depending on the country's law and the facts surrounding the situation. 6. Your money, your decision. You are already treating/seeing your son's stepchildren as equal to your biological children, but it doesn't mean you have to give them a lot of money conditionally. Your relation to them will be severed the moment your son and his wife divorce. 7. My spidey senses tell me that his wife has a sense of entitlement. Also, please look into trust administrators for your bio grandkids' money. There have been enough posts here to anticipate Sam and Jane pressuring Sam's bio kids to share their money with the stepkids. Damn straight. You know that will happen already. I could see the piece of work daughter-in-law pressuring Sam's siblings to pool their kids' money together with theirs for the stepkids. Not today, Hall. My aunts and uncles went through a number of marriages when I was a kid, often with stepchildren. Despite how much the then-married couples claimed their love was forever, the majority of those marriages didn't last until the kids reached adulthood, much less finished college. When it comes to people, I'm only connected to via someone else's marriage. I'm aware that I may not be connected to them for long. I agree. The son and wife have every right to feel the way they do, but this grandparent also has every right to save/use their money in what they feel is the best thing. I wouldn't expect my step-parents or their parents to save money for me, even though I came into their life when I was young. Yes, they treat me like their other grandchildren, but I know that if my parents/step-parents were to divorce, it'd cause a shift in our relationship with the extended family. I don't think Opie's the a-hole. I don't really see how it's the grandparents' responsibility to save college money for the grandkids. It should be the parents, so it's a nice thing you're doing. They should be grateful. This Jane seems very entitled, and you should stand your ground because divorces are too likely to happen. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother my stepdad's not my dad? My dad was in my life until he died when I, male 16, was 7. My mom was already married to my stepdad AJ by then, and my brother was barely 1 year old. I never considered AJ anything than just my brother's dad. For a long time, my mom kept trying to make me call him dad because my brother copied everything I do, and he started calling his dad AJ too. But he grew out of that and just calls him dad now. I can tell AJ don't like that we don't have that kind of relationship and been in family therapy before. The therapist basically told them to give me my space and I shouldn't be pressured. So they dropped the sessions. Lol. I don't know why out of the blue my brother randomly asked me a few days ago, how come I always called dad AJ? And I told him because AJ is not my real dad. He never asked this before, so it caught me by surprise. My brother told me I'm lying. How could he not be my dad? And I told him my real dad died when I was little, so that's how AJ isn't my dad. But then he asked if that means we're not brothers. And I told him we are because we have the same mom. He just had a million questions about my dad after that, so I told him what I remember. But my mom got mad at me for telling him that AJ is not my real dad, and making it seem like I don't consider him family, and that I just confused my brother about our family. I don't know why, but now AJ is ignoring me when I'm in the room, and it gets awkward when my brother asks more questions about my dad in front of them. Was I Nahal for telling him the truth? Not today, Hal. Your mom shouldn't hide the truth about your real dad. Just disrespectful to his life. Your brother will understand and love you all the same. Yeah, my brother hasn't acted different. Just ask more random questions about him sometimes. He asked, you answered. Your mom and AJ should have known that would happen someday. It's not a bad thing that he knows that he's asking questions so that it will all make sense to him. Not today, Hal. Not today, Hal. Your mom is trying to force a relationship. You're right. AJ isn't your dad, and you don't have to call him such. It sounds like you have a cordial relationship. Your mom is just mad she has to do the labor facilitating a blended family, which is her job, so tough luck to her. You're 16, not 6 months. You get to decide who you feel familial towards. And trying to raise Opie's dad's memory. That is so unbelievably crappy. Not an a-hole completely. Your brother is still young and doesn't understand how having a step-family works yet. So in the words of r/, I will give you 5 over 5 buttholes for telling him something that most likely will change his outlook on life forever. Let me explain why you aren't the a-hole and shouldn't feel like one. 1. Your brother was going to learn anyway. 2. You don't feel comfortable calling AJ your dad because he technically isn't, and you don't have that bond with him. Your mom needs to understand that. 3. AJ ignoring you means that he's hurt, but more butthurt that you aren't doing things the way he wants. Your younger brother did nothing wrong and was just curious, and you answered his question. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for insulting my brother as a parent after his repeated suggestions about leaving my wife? Over a year and a half ago, my wife was in a serious car accident that's changed our lives. She suffered serious injuries and she almost didn't make it. By some miracle, she pulled through, but now she's permanently paralyzed from the waist down. We had a 5-month-old baby girl, and I'm not going to lie, it was a major challenge for us both settling to our new lives and managing parenthood. I was the one doing most of the childcare while my wife recovered. My family has been very supportive and lending a helping hand every now and then. My brother, not so much, but then again, we're not that close. Over the past year when we'd talk, he'd say things like, "Man, I don't know how you have the patience for her anymore. Just leave already." Or make comments about my wife being kind of selfish for not at least suggesting I be allowed to see other people given that we won't be intimate anymore. Completely untrue, but not really his business. My family and myself have berated him for talking that way, and I've told him to watch what he says. None of this was ever said in front of my wife, but it still bothered me. Recently, I was talking with my parents and brother on Zoom. My daughter has been having trouble sleeping, so I've been quite tired. My brother again ran his mouth. He doesn't understand why I'm still bothering with her when she's no longer doing me any good, and offered to give me his divorce attorney's information because I obviously didn't sign up to be my wife's babysitter on top of parenting. This irked me because 1, my wife has been perfectly capable of taking care of herself. Obviously, she still needs assistance sometimes, and I help her. And 2, I still love my wife very much, and not going to leave her because it's no longer beneficial, as it puts it. And I told him as such. I also brought up that, unlike him, I don't dip out when there's trouble and shirk my responsibilities. That upset him too, so he ended a call. I brought this up because my brother divorced his wife, and since then he only sees my niece, his daughter, whenever he feels like it, which is rare. My parents have scolded me for stooping to his level. My brother also says I'm a prick when he's just thinking about my best interest, and that's no reason to drag him. I'll admit I was pretty pissed off in the moment. So maybe I was an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. Your brother needs to mind his own business, and I'm shocked that your parents are scolding you. Good luck to you and your wife with everything. You sound like a good husband. I think because everyone in my family is used to my brother and his unfiltered opinions, and it's just him being his usual self. Well, sounds like his usual self is an a-hole. It's good that you stood up to him. Someone clearly needed to. It almost sounds like your brother has the opinion your wife can't be intimate with you, whether it's true or not, and so she's not worth the time anymore? This just screams what kind of person he is, to be honest. Also, doesn't marriage vows usually say something about in sickness and in health? So when he callously said, "You didn't sign up for this," he's not even right anyway. Not a a-hole. And thank you for taking your marriage and wife seriously. Many people would unfortunately have the opinion your brother does, and those people are a-holes. That's been a major factor in why he thinks I should leave her or feels I should at least be allowed to have fun on the side. I don't imagine ever leaving my wife, much less over something like this. Was it hard? Yes. Did I have my own moments where I felt completely broken down because it was all too overwhelming? Absolutely. But we've made it out stronger. And it just felt like he was disrespecting how far we've come by acting like she's been nothing but a chore. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not leaving work to bring my pregnant wife a change of shoes? My 30-male wife, Charlotte, 38 female, is a very senior corporate lawyer and works in the city. She's mostly been working from home due to events, but recently they've started to return to the office. Charlotte is also 5 months pregnant. Charlotte wears heels pretty much everywhere that isn't home or the gym. I always suggest she take a spare pair of flats, but she always refuses. She says it's a matter of pride. She's gotten to a point in the pregnancy where her feet are starting to swell, so it's becoming increasingly uncomfortable wearing her shoes. However, she has still refused to take flats with her. I work in construction, and my current site is about an hour away from Charlotte's office. I got a call from her yesterday. She said that her feet were in agony, and she didn't think she would be able to walk to the train station and go on the train home in her heels. She wanted me to find a shoe shop and buy a cheap pair of trainers or flip-flops, or alternatively bring my trainers. I normally wear trainers to work and then change into my work boots, so she could wear them home. The problem was that my shift didn't end for another couple of hours after she finished work. I asked my boss if I could leave to help my wife, but he refused as there is a lot of work to do. I asked Charlotte if she'd be willing to wait at the office for me, but she said she didn't want to. When I got home, I found Charlotte curled up sobbing. She said she forced herself to get home in heels and that her feet were in pain. She's upset with me because she thinks I should have insisted on leaving so I could help her. Seeing how upset she was, I tried to hug her, but she wanted me to go away. I genuinely feel awful about her being in so much pain. I'm almost in tears about it myself, but there wasn't much I could have done. I couldn't exactly tell my boss I was leaving whether he liked it or not. I offered her to wait for me to finish, but she refused. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As a heel wearer, you always have a backup pair of shoes at work. How ridiculous. She's a hotshot lawyer. Shouldn't these problem-solving skills be her jam? I understand she's pregnant and hormonal, etc., but my blood boils after reading this post. She is asking her working husband to get her shoes so she can go home? What happened to being a strong, independent woman? Edited to add, not the Halopi. I am a woman who has been pregnant and also have been in sticky situation where I had to put on my big girl pants and solve things without my husband's help. I've heard of some people, who probably have money to burn, who Uber or Uber Eats frivolous items like beauty blenders. So, just an expensive hack for anyone who's in a pinch. Not the a-hole. Your wife is an adult. She should have realized by now that she can't wear the heels all the time. I'm not pregnant, and in the before times, I carried a pair of trainers to change into after office hours. I'm not even sure how your wife is planning to handle the day that heels have so damaged her feet and ankles she can't wear them at all. As a retired professional female office worker who had no idea what I'd be doing in the course of a day, what I kept at my office: heels, steel toe boots, tennis shoes, trainers, house shoes, rain boots for rain/mud, flats, casual and dress, extra pantyhose, stockings, and lots of extra socks, also changes of clothing. I agree with above poster. She may be pregnant, but she was a grown woman first and should know to be prepared. Clearest not the a-hole of the week. You told her to carry spare shoes. You try to get off of work. She may be hormonal, but that's no excuse to be an a-hole.
Update. Am I the a-hole for exposing my parents when they forgot about me on their wedding? Original post. I know this seems like a weird situation, but I just feel so angry and depressed that I feel the need to vent even if no one is listening. So I, 17 female, was recently forgotten about on the day of my parents' wedding. My parents have been together for about 25 years, but they never actually got married. That's why when my dad, 50 male, proposed to my mother, 49 female, on their anniversary, which they have always celebrated on the date my mother found out she was pregnant with my eldest sister even though they were already together before. Everyone, including me, was elated and celebrated the occasion with great joy. This happened all the way back in February. They immediately jumped into wedding planning, deciding very early on a small event in Hawaii with just the closest family and friends for an intimate ceremony. Almost immediately, my mother asked my sister, 25 female, to be her maid of honor, and my dad asked my brother, 22 male, to be his groomsman. I wasn't surprised or offended by this. My sister had always been a mommy's girl, and they both enjoyed spending time with each other, shopping and socializing, so they had a very close bond. The same goes for my father and brother. They always played football together and messed around with cars. My father even trained my brother's team for a while in middle school. Dad had always left me as the odd one out. I tried to insert myself in my family's hobbies and groups that they had within our home, but was always rebuffed. Maybe they could sense that my interest on their activities wasn't all that genuine, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, I was used to being the last and least important member of my family. Mom had sis and dad had bro. My parents had each other, and my two siblings were closer to each other than they were ever to me, leaving me very lonely and isolated in my own home. During the preparation for the wedding, initially it was suggested that I be the flower girl, but my sister thought that role would be more appropriate for a daughter of 3 female, so that idea was quickly tossed away. Later on, my maternal grandmother suggested that I might read a poem or do a little bit of speech during the ceremony. But both my parents refused because they wanted the wedding to be low-key, and they didn't think a cheesy and sappy speech would fit their vision. Their literal words. I was still okay with all of this, even though it hurt to know I would be the only member of the family to not actually be part of the wedding party, or have any role at all on the day. As the day approached, my parents and siblings got more and more caught up on all the wedding planning. I noticed my mom didn't invite me dress shopping, and that whenever they would have discussions about the venue or the event, I was left out. So I decided to see if they would realize that I wasn't being involved at all and kept quiet, waiting for them to ask me something, anything, about the wedding. But that never happened. The wedding was set for 3 weeks ago, the end of August. The day before the departure, my mother casually asked if I had my luggage ready because we couldn't be late on the airport. I bluntly told her that I hadn't prepared anything. She got confused for a second and then snapped at me for not being prepared. I then asked if I even had a ticket, and her face went pale. Yep, they hadn't even bought me a ticket, and I'm not even sure if I had a room or any accommodations once there. Even though I was the only person in my family without a stable income, I work as a part-time babysitter. My parents had bought first-class tickets for my siblings and a couple other friends that were attending the wedding but had forgotten me. My mom told me not to make a big deal out of it, and that they can just find me a low-cost ticket last minute from a cheap airline. But I just replied by asking her, then what? Do I even have a dress for the ceremony? She went with sister to buy hers and all the other female guests months ago, but I wasn't included. That's when my father came in and just told me to suck it up and that I've never been a girly girl, so I could just wear whatever. I got mad at this because even though I'm not the most feminine girl in the planet, I would have loved to be included in such an important part of my parents' wedding. And it was about the fact that I was excluded for literally everything that had been going on for months. We all got into a fight, with them calling me entitled and accusing me of making myself small intentionally so they would forget me. Like that is a valid excuse for ignoring a child. They ended up telling me that if I was going to keep this attitude, I might as well skip the whole thing together. To which I responded with a defiant, fine, and went to my room. Next morning, they all left for Hawaii without me. The ceremony was really small, but they all posted loads of pictures on Insta and Facebook about how perfect and magical that whole week was being. People realized quickly that I wasn't in any of the photos and asked my parents why, to which they replied that unfortunately I had caught COVID before the trip and had to stay behind. My blood boiled at this. I don't know why this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, but it was. I decided to take a COVID test and published a picture of myself holding the negative test and captioned it, "Not sick at all, just forgotten." I tagged everyone that had questioned my absence from the trip and the wedding in the picture and, for good measure, also every person invited to it. I also wrote in the comments about how my parents had literally forgotten about anything to do with me until the day before parting and how they actually uninvited me. Most people were on my side, and others couldn't believe it and thought there must be something more to the story than what I was saying. But one thing is for certain, I completely ruined my parents' wedding, and their day was overshadowed by my confession. At first, I felt quite satisfied with myself for standing up on my own, but after a barrage of messages from my family, calling me every name in the book, and later when they came back, them furiously attacking me for my immature actions and my spoiled behavior, my pride deflated quickly, and I began to feel awful. I hate my family, and I hate being in this house, but I'm a minor and can't leave just yet. I do feel like I could have handled the situation better though, and now I feel so depressed that I'm second-guessing everything I did, from not speaking up before to the way I exposed them. I also feel guilty for the lack of connection between all of my family and me, and maybe I could have done more? Am I the a-hole for ruining my parents' wedding when they forgot about me? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not a-hole. How could you have ruined a wedding they had exactly as they planned? You weren't invited, didn't attend, and didn't have any effect on the planning or details. Could Opie be an affair child? She is quite a few years younger than her siblings, and it would explain a lot. I am the now adult child of a narcissist. Some parents really do suck this hard, even if the child is 100% their bio kid. Not saying she isn't an affair child, but figuring that out at this point won't help anything. The parents are just mad that their neglect is now public, so they are trying to shame Opie into recanting her version of events. That, plus they want to punish her. Best of luck, Opie. You deserve better. I have a similar family dynamic to you, Opie, although I'm the oldest. I wasn't asked to go on family vacations. My birthday was always forgotten about. If my mom and younger siblings wanted to go out to eat for family dinner while I was at work, they would leave and not say a word to me. Not a-hole. Don't let them make you feel guilty. As soon as I could, I moved out. Didn't say a word to anyone in my immediate family, just packed a bag and was gone. I'm no contact with everyone but my little sister, and even she's on probation with regards to visits and hanging out. I'm sorry for you and that we are on the same boat. I want to move out, but I have no place to go now. I had a summer job besides babysitting, and I've been saving up some money. But I live in a very expensive city, and I need another job before I can plan anything. Be strong. Don't let them get under your skin. Even if you have to get roommates or move in with a friend, leave as soon as you're comfortable with finances. There are Facebook groups and such for looking for roommates, especially in high cost of living areas. I know that's what I should be doing. I do have a friend that is moving to a studio apartment near our college, but I don't have a job at the moment, and I don't want to be a burden to her. She and I are close, so I'm sure she would offer for me to move in with her, but I don't want to be a burden. Also, I don't have a job at the moment, so I couldn't pay rent. So that's something else I need to do at the moment. Now for the update few days later. Hi everyone! I wanted to write an update earlier, but I'm still kind of a mess at the moment. But I figured since my post had such an overwhelming response, and so many people commented and sent me messages, that I should write about the latest developments. First of all, let me start by thanking all that commented on my post and shared their own experiences or point of view on my situation. Thank you so much. A few days ago, I could barely find the energy to get out of bed, and my family's comments had made me really believe that I was guilty for all that had passed. But after seeing the responses to my post and all the support you guys were giving me, I felt somewhat reaffirmed in my actions and feelings towards my family. I'm still fighting the feelings of guilt and depression, but whenever I start to spiral, I think on how much this community of strangers has had my back, and I try to calm myself down with your words. Thanks to your input and advice, I finally decided to call my grandma and tell her the full story. Just to clarify a point before going on, my grandma, a 77 female, did not attend the wedding. She lives several states away and has mobility issues, so she doesn't travel anymore. We went to visit her around Easter, and that's when she commented that I might read a poem at the ceremony. But that was the last time I saw her in person before all this. She's always been very loving to me and has called out my parents in the past for their favoritism, but it's hard for her to play a more active role in my upbringing since she lives so far, and I'm always worried about bothering her due to her age and health condition. She had a minor stroke a few years back and is now back to normal, but I still worry. Anyway, I called her and laid out everything that had happened with the wedding and how my parents didn't even buy me a ticket to go with them. She came to the same conclusion that most commenters did when I told her that it was simply impossible, that they had forgotten and that they did it on purpose. I cried on the phone with her, laying out how I was feeling, how this has been going on forever, how I feel in the aftermath, and most importantly about my need to get out. She was extremely sweet and comforting to me and told me that I had nothing else to worry about because she had my back 100%, and told me to take it easy but make plans for my future and that she'd help me. After that conversation, which lasted about 2 hours, I felt better and I decided to listen to her and start moving to figure something out for the next school year. I have a friend who is going to lease a studio next to our future campus. She has a great relationship with her parents, but she has 5 younger siblings and wants to be more independent, so that's why she decided to move out. I asked her if I could move in with her temporarily and that I would pay her rent as soon as I got a job. She immediately accepted and told me not to worry about rent or anything else until I was in a better position. And we had a good cry together when I told her all about my parents' wedding incident. So this all happened a couple days ago and I was planning on doing the update then, but my grandma called my parents and siblings to lecture them about how they were treating me. My brother just sent me a text afterwards with a half-hearted apology, saying that he didn't know I wasn't included and that he just thought I wouldn't have fun on the trip, and then I posted a picture just to create drama. My sister, on the other hand, berated me and told me that I kept trying to make public my own problems and pitting them on my family when they are all innocent. It has been weird with my parents ever since they came back from the trip, and at first they berated me and were furious with me, and after that we've just been ignoring each other. After my grandma called them, they came into my room telling me that if I wanted to put this whole issue to rest, I should shut up about it, and that this could all had already blown over if only I had kept my mouth shut. I just asked them to leave my room, and then I called my grandma again to tell her what had gone down. She then told me that she and my uncle had bought plane tickets to come down to see me. This was something that I was actually scared about because my grandma's health is not the best, and this kind of effort is a lot for her. And I know how complicated it is for her to get on a plane. So I tried to dissuade her from coming and told her everything would be okay. But she wouldn't listen and told me that she was long overdue a conversation with my parents and that she wanted to see me. I'm stressed for her, and I feel again like I forced her to take a long uncomfortable trip because of me, and that maybe I should have dealt with this myself. I do want to see her, and I wish for nothing more than to hug her right now, but I'm worried about her. At least my uncle, mom's older brother, is coming with her, but I hope she doesn't exhaust herself or nothing happens to her because that would break me. They arrive tomorrow and have not informed my parents of their trip. My grandma asked me to keep it until she gets here. I hope she is able to make my parents see the mistake in their actions, or at the very least, help me break the news to them that I'm moving out very soon, and I plan on being no contact with them. I don't know. I'm worried about her having to do so much for me and bothering her, but I also appreciate and love her so much for doing all this for me. Your grandma is amazing. It's so great that she has your back and is willing to stand up to your parents. And don't worry about her making the trip. She sounds like a strong and determined woman. Plus, you deserve to have someone on your side who will fight for you. Keep us updated on how everything goes with your family. And remember, you have a whole community here to support you. Best of luck with your future plans. She should use her oxygen tank to beat some sense into them. I have a feeling she will do something if she is having health issues but is making the trip. It's definitely to bang some heads together. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after I found out she lied about her finances? So I, 28 female, recently found myself in a really tough spot with my little sister, 25 female, and I'm struggling to figure out if I'm in the wrong here. A little backstory. My sister has been planning her wedding for over a year and I've been saving up to help her out financially. Our family isn't wealthy, so we all pitched in a portion to make her dream wedding come true. So approximately 3 months ago, she told me that her wedding budget was way over the limit, and she asked if I could give her an extra $10,000 to cover costs into $5,000 payments. Of course, this is a lot of money, lol. So naturally, I was a bit hesitant, but she's my little sis, so of course I wanted to support her. Long story short, I agreed to help, even though it meant dipping into my own savings. She promised that this would be the last of her financial requests and assured me that her budget was tight but manageable. Fast forward to last week, I found out through a mutual friend that my sister actually had saved up a significant amount of money on her own and had been misrepresenting her financial situation to our immediate family, me, mom, and dad, who are all pitching in. Before anyone asks me if I am sure, yes, I am. I know this, as part of the money I gave her was to help cover hotel costs for guests, normal in my culture for anyone wondering. I'm mentioning this because it was through a mutual friend I found out rooms per night in this hotel were actually $110, but in other conversations with me, she told me it was $200, a big difference. She also told my mom and I that her and her fiancé are not having a honeymoon to save on costs. Turns out, that's not true, as it was found out she sent pictures of flight reservation to Fiji on her girls' group chat. An extremely expensive location. It is very clear her plan was to use the extra money to fund her lavish honeymoon and to splurge on some high-end wedding accessories that weren't budgeted for. When I confronted her, she admitted to exaggerating the financial strain to get more money from me and others. I was obviously furious. I feel like she took advantage of my generosity, and now I'm rethinking whether I should still help with the remaining wedding costs. She's been begging me to reconsider, but I can't get over the betrayal. My family's divided. Some think I'm being too harsh and should just overlook it, as they are saying it's her wedding and it's not nice to ruin things last minute, while my friends and husband agree that she crossed a line. I don't want to be the villain in this story, but I also can't shake the feeling that she needs to face the consequences of her actions. So am I the a-hole for refusing to pay the remaining $5,000 for my sister's wedding after discovering she lied about her finances? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your family is correct in saying it's her wedding and it's not nice to ruin things last minute. But you are not the one ruining things. It's her lies and her leeching. Why should you dip into your savings when it's not your wedding? Your savings have a purpose, and that does not include sponsoring a Fiji honeymoon. Also, divorce yourself from the attitude that she's little. She is a grown adult. What is her future husband paying for if you are all paying for the wedding and honeymoon? Cancel the honeymoon. I'm sure that's $5,000. Problem solved. Tell her you lied when you said you'd give her $10,000. You're exaggerating. Sister needs a sit-down discussion. Make her explain to everyone how much money she hid. No one will give her anything more, and she will repay the value of what she hid to those who donated it. This is basically fraud. It is not something you let go. It's paying for a holiday, not surgery. She needs to give everyone a groveling apology.